we cannot rely on old means of energy, like coal and oil. Nuclear power is a safe form of energy. This may seem ridiculous to some of you, considering that all you've heard about nuclear power in the past few years is, say, the Fukushima disaster in Japan, or 3 Mile Island, or Chernobyl. But here's the thing. Those are basically the only 3 major nuclear plant failures. On the other hand, oil spills happen all the time. And by its very existence, coal plants do far more just in daily running to people than any nuclear plant disaster. You see, nuclear plants, all they produce is steam in the air. That's the white smoke. That's the white substance you see coming out of them. But coal plants produce dangerous, carcinogenic emissions and smoke. And oil and the negative impacts of oil are just clear from oil spills in the Gulf, and there have been many of those. So, in all aspects, nuclear power is not only a safe form of energy, especially considering the new forms of storing nuclear waste, which is the main issue, that involves storing it so far deep underground that it won't ever reach us in its 10,000 years span of decay. And it's also far more efficient than any other form of renewable energy. And considering that creating more sustainable energy efforts will be a far longer term project than building a nuclear plant, at this point, if not for a permanent solution, but at least for a temporary solution, we must implement nuclear power. Otherwise, in order to preserve the future of our nation, preserve the future of our state. Now, a lot of the anti-nuclear argument is based around fear, but in deciding the fate of our state, the fate of the people of the world, we must not be fearful. We must embrace nuclear power as a safe, clean way of securing the energy our future needs without damaging the planet that we hold so dear. And that's why I urge you to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
Now we're hearing 6 minutes speech from the main cons.
Where's our timekeeper again?
Oh, I
You guys are mad. All right, are we ready to go? Okay, all right. How's everyone doing? My name is Adam Jacobs. I spoke at the last debate for those of you that snuck around, so I'm still Adam Jacobs. I didn't say last time that is more pertinent to this debate is that my mom, who I love very much, who I respect a lot, went and has been working with Southern California Edison, an electric company, for a long time. And she has worked with nuclear power plants in the past. Not like in the nuclear power plant, but with more logistically managing them from a distance. And so I spoke to her a lot about the problems with nuclear power. And one of the biggest problems, and one that she will admit, you can tell like she was a little biased, like, no, nuclear power is fine. One of the biggest things that anyone who works in a nuclear power plant will say is we don't know what to do with the waste, right? You work with a nuclear power plant, you only get out steam, it's lovely, it works, we get power, it's fun, you can use this land nobody else is using, but you don't know what to do with the waste. Some people have taken it, they've stuffed it in steel tubes and encased it in cement, they put it into liquid steel and let it cool. They've done all kinds of stuff in an attempt to house the nuclear waste, but it's still harmful. It's still harmful to take it, to house it in whatever the hell they're doing. It hurts people. And the reason it hurts people is 2 reasons. One, it's quite literally invisible. You can't see radiation when it's affecting you. And 2, it causes cancers, birth defects, all that stuff. Now I want to touch on this thing, the first invisible items. You can't see radiation, so it's quite literally the worst. If I took a piece of radiation out here and threw it at Jan Sun from back in high school, and she caught it and went, oh, radiation, or oh, you're radiation, and then threw it back to me and I grabbed it and put it back in my pocket, we would probably both get cancer. So in this debate, I'm going to talk about 3 main points. We don't know what to do with the nuclear waste. It's way too risky to rely on nuclear power or even have nuclear power. And third, there are better alternatives out there. Now, I already talked about what to do with the waste. Sometimes they stick it in the desert in Nevada. Sometimes they stick it in the middle of nowhere under landfills. Getting it there is tough, and as we've seen with some hydraulic fracking, there's complaints that the chemicals are reaching the surface. The radiation is infecting soil, which does reach the surface sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I will admit that. Now, that moves on, leading me to my next point, that it's too risky to rely on nuclear power. It just is. Look at what happened in Fukushima, or Chernobyl, or the 3 Mile incident. If something goes wrong, we're screwed. That whole area is hashtag do not enter. Literally, you can't go near it or you will get cancer and die. So if someone, say a terrorist, domestic terrorist, blows up a solar plant, there's land that we have to clean up. We have to do this, we have to do that. But it's not like there's dangerous, harmful radiation being spewed everywhere. If a terrorist blows up a nuclear power plant, we're hosed, as my film teacher says, which is another word for we're screwed. Now, there are those 3 big main disasters. We talked about Fukushima, Chernobyl, and the 3 Mile Island incident. Imagine if one happened right here in Orange County. Our property value would, 1, go down a lot, and 2, it would hurt us. Not in the short run, it wouldn't hurt us instantaneously in the same way that if I threw scissors at Jan-Jan's son, it would probably hurt her instantly. However, if I threw a piece of if I threw scissors at Tristan, it would probably hurt him. But if I threw uranium at him, it would hurt him more, but in the long run. We don't exactly know all of the effects that can happen. We're still seeing birth effects from Chernobyl. We're still seeing issues coming out of Fukushima, those weird moths that look like butterflies or whatever. Disaster shrimp that are this big floating up on the coasts of Hawaii. Nasty stuff, because we have yet to see all of the effects. We've only mastered nuclear energy in the form of those nuclear bombs since what, the 40s? It has not even been clear. We cannot claim to know what to do. We have to give this more time before we stick it right in people's backyards. And this leads me to my 3rd argument. There are much better alternatives out there. We have solar power. We should invest in that. That's the future right there. We can't just brush it aside and say, well, we have nuclear power that almost sort of does kind of work. We have coal power, which isn't great. It's bad for the environment, but it works. We have wind power, which can be called the bird Cuisinart, as it's sometimes called, because birds fly. You get the point. There are dams, not like dam, like dams. My comedians wrote that joke for me. I mean dams like they stop water and then they let some water rush through to spin a turbine to get electricity. Some people are talking about taking a wind turbine and putting it underwater so that sea currents turn the turbine. We have better alternatives. We don't need to settle. How about that 30 seconds? It is the American way to find something that's new. It is. In fact, it is our duty as one of the most powerful, most intellectual, smart nations on the face of the earth to find something that works, like nuclear power. It does. But there are risks. It's not safe 100% of the time. And so we should, as Americans, cast it aside and say, what's next? And move on to solar power, and move on to something that's more helpful to the world. God bless you all. God bless America.
We're going to hear a 3-minute subsequent speech from someone who raises their hand. Yeah, that. And then when you come over,
All right. So the first point I'd like to address is he brought up that there are more other ways to produce energy, but that's just not the case. So as of right now, the whole scheme of the energy crisis, Nuclear energy accounts for 5.9%. All right, that's a tiny number, but that's about 20% of what we consider clean energy. Nothing with carbon dioxide emissions, nothing that puts sulfites in the air, nothing that carcinogens, as was brought up earlier. Solar and wind and biomass combined account for 0.4% of all the energy, 0.4%. So as of right now, I mean, that's just not a viable option. We need to look at everything in the scheme of things. Now, will that number be increased? Yeah, in the future, maybe we get that up to 5%, maybe we get that up to 10%. But as for right now, we need to look what we need right now. We need to look at the number 5.9%, and we need to realize what a big number that is in the scheme of things. Number 2, the reduction of worst forms of what we consider clean energy. Dams, also a non-efficient form of energy. That takes away, some birthing homes for fish, that takes away nutrients downstream. You also look at the number of carbon dioxide emitted. 33.4 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions from coal, from oil, from whatever the case may be. That's a lot of carbon dioxide getting into our atmosphere. That affects our breathing. That affects global warming, whether or not you want to believe in that. That affects air pollution, right? Fourth point I'd like to bring up is that you often bring up big disasters: Fukushima, Chernobyl, 3 Mile Island. Technologies are becoming every day safer with nuclear energy. There you go. We're looking at new technologies, graphite balls that are non-water soluble, physically cannot penetrate Earth's surface, Earth's water sources. So we are becoming safer and safer. And last event, I think 2011, but you look at 3 disasters in the scheme of things, infinitesimal, less than 1%. Is there a need for improvement? Yes, I will agree that there's a need to improve nuclear power. It needs to become more efficient. It needs to become safer, yes, but again, those are all things that we're working on, that we're going to have to move forward with, because again, 5.9% of power, that's a lot of energy in the scheme of things. Also, you look at storage. So storage is in fact a problem, but every day we're coming up with
Motion to extend speaker time by 30 seconds.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
How long you want, Conrad?
give me 2 minutes.
Can I give him 2 minutes? That's a lot. Let's get it. 1 minute.
All right, so storage we were talking about. Storage, we have concrete bearings right now. Among that concrete divider, right, you have the nuclear waste inside, already used uranium, plutonium, whatever the case may be. There is 0 radiation outside of that, or 0.0005, if you want to call it 0.0005, go on and call it 0.005, but my point is that that's not affecting anybody, within 5 mile radius, out in the desert. Right, yeah, that doesn't, and yeah, so anyways, do we need to improve this technology? Definitely, but there is a need for it now. There will be a need for it for the next 20 years. And yeah, it's something we need moving forward. The rest of them have questions.
10 seconds.
10 seconds?
I'll give it the time.
Yeah, sweet.
Okay, so now we're here.
Okay, so I'm Annie, and I'm from Beckman High School, and I believe that we should not build nuclear power plants in California. Because, like, who wants a nuclear power plant in their backyard, right? There's this whole argument, like, not in my backyard. Yeah, like, a lot of people think, oh, it's a great source of energy, but no one wants it to be built near their home. And, again, like, nuclear power plants use large amounts of water for heating and cooling, and California is in a huge drought. So, if we waste all of our water for these nuclear power plants, that would be dead. Yeah, okay, your energy bill would decrease, but your water bill would increase, and then people would run out of water, and there would be nothing to drink, and we would all die. So, and another point is that uranium is a non-renewable resource. Once we run out of uranium, the nuclear power plants are useless. That's billions of dollars gone to waste. And we have to spend so much money on security for these nuclear power plants. Like, if we have a leeway in security, it would be detrimental and illegal to California and even as a natural security. Okay, that's all I have.
How long do we have? 20-30. How do you think uranium would better be used? Because it can be misused also. If it's not for nuclear energy.
A lot of developing countries need that uranium to help their economy and their energy sources. So if the U.S. spends all of the, or uses up all the uranium of developing countries
In what specific way did those developing countries use that? You said uranium.
Well, I feel like they would use it to maybe increase their own energy uses, but I feel like it's a scarce resource, and no matter what, we shouldn't just waste it.
You mentioned water usage. What about the connection between nuclear power and desalination plants?
I'm not exactly sure what desalination plant is.
You salt from water to create clean water.
It's expensive.
Going back to your another previously, sending uranium to developing countries. What kind of countries do we get information? North Korea, Iran. Those are only countries that it's not able to develop nuclear nuclear substances and developing.
Oh, so that's size up. So thank you.
Hello, I'm Daniel, and I'll be speaking for the usage of nuclear power plants. So what we touched on was you use large amounts of water. As far as I'm aware right now, we're not in a saltwater drought. We're in a freshwater drought, and for the most part, we'll be using salt water to cool the plants. So that's just covering the water issue. We're talking about Southern California Edison, which is operating the recently shut down San Onofre plant. It was recently shut down. Emissions rate in California has increased by 35% in 2012 alone, and increased 10.9 million tons of CO2 emissions, whereas in 2008 and 2010, these CO2 rates were steadily declining. There will be an increase in electricity prices by 13.6 billion, and ironically, Southern California Edison will be able to jack up the energy prices by 13.6 billion, and will take a personal profit of $4 billion from the shutdown of this plant, with increases in prices in energy. We talk about renewable source of energy. In a perfect world, we should use hydroelectric power and solar power and biodiesels, etc. But solar power will not provide enough power, period, for the growing population of California. We talked about anomalies in the nuclear power and safety issues. Chernobyl's power plant, the meltdown was due to extremely low standards in the Soviet energy system. 1986 is a completely different year from 2014, 2015. 1986, the Soviet economy is just going on, just being destroyed. So obviously they're going to say, well, you know, I mean, we should probably just try to focus on other issues and, you know, let the nuclear power plants go. And voila, the power plant blows up. 3 Mile Island, 1979, the nuclear power plant is still relatively new. New technology is being introduced. We talked about we don't know what to do with the waste. We already covered that as far as on you can create facilities, safe facilities. We created the Yucca Mountains facility, which recently was shut down, not due to safety reasons, but specifically closed due to political reasons. This is taken from a New York Times article stating the death of Yucca Mountains was caused by political maneuvering, not safety reasons. And so the shutdown was caused for safety reasons. The shutdown of San Onofre was caught down by safety reasons, but which could easily be accomplished by improving safety standards throughout the entire nation. So overall, California needs to increase its uses of nuclear power to overall help the situation with the power issues as well as lower energy costs, because we just do not have enough renewable energies right now to substantiate costs.
Now we're at 3 minutes of script for the concept.
Alright guys, my name is Casey McDaniel. I'm back again with Adam Jacobs, and you guys were here for the last one. So we talked a lot about where we're going to put the radioactive material after it's done with it. I think Adam touched on it a little bit, but I'd like to introduce some numbers to you guys. Michael, I don't even really get the whole, how everything works, but basically what happens is when we use the uranium to create power, it turns into something called plutonium-239. And plutonium-239 is the thing that he was talking about with, you know, you have the radioactive material, and you throw in, and, you know, now she has radiation. That's what the radiation comes from. And what plutonium-239 has a half-life of 24,000 years, which means that in 24,000 years, half of it will be gone, only half. So with the 200,000 metric tons of radioactive waste that we produce every year, if we just take 1 year, just 1 year, in 24,000 years, we will have 1,000 metric tons. In 48,000 years, we will have 500 metric tons. In 72,000 years, we will have 250 metric tons, and in 96,000 years, we will still have 125 metric tons of plutonium-239. And now, we talked a lot about how, what was it, the Yucca, whatever, mountain thing, where we put this stuff, and how it's safe. What are we going to do with it for 96,000 years? We're in the year 2000 right now. Just put that in perspective. That is such a long time. And this waste emits radiation and heat that eventually corrodes every single container we will ever put it in. So what we need to do is not focus on what we're going to do with it in the next 100 years. We need to think about what we're going to do with it in the next 100,000 years. Because that's the real issue. The issue with America is that we look to what is going on right now, and we don't look to the future. Because this radioactive decay is a problem. This radioactive waste is a problem. And everything that goes near it, it infects. So it's like, think about like the Black Death of material. It goes somewhere, it infects every single thing that's around it. You put it somewhere else, and that thing goes and touches nothing, now it has radioactive waste on it. It just spreads, and there's no way we're going to be able to contain it forever. And then there's also a point about how we don't have other forms of energy. That's simply just not true. We have coal right now, and that may not be the best solution, but the thing is, it's better than jumping into something that we have no freaking clue what we're dealing with when we're dealing with nuclear power. We don't know what to do with it. And that is why I urge you to vote con on this resolution and stand with Adam Jacobs. Thank you. My next speaker.
So, because of the time, we don't have enough time to hear from the subsequent from both sides. So, in order to keep the debate balanced, is there a motion for this question? Second. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, please say nay. We'll hear a 3-minute closing speech from the con side.
Okay, are we ready?
Yes.
Woo! All right. I just want to go over a few things. I really want to do this fast because we're running out of time. First, I drew up graphs. That's how much the statistics mean to me, because even though they're legit, which these aren't, I'm sorry, we still have no idea what we're dealing with. We really are. We haven't even been exposed to this stuff for 100 years. Remember when cell phones were first getting popular and people were like, oh, if you put your phone to your ear, you're going to get cancer. Remember that? Do you guys remember that? That was because cell phones were so new, and the beams of energy that transmit conversations across the world was so phenomenally foreign, people just assumed it killed you. So, I want to talk about some of the things that people have been saying is that we can't, right, so it's safe, right? Some people say we put the nuclear waste in a graphite tube and then we put the graphite tube in the mountains. Well, guess what? The issue is not once it's there. The issue is getting it there. You can't automate a robot which does everything automatically and then the robot is disassembled automatically and then is also put in a tube. You need real workers who expose themselves to the nuclear waste to set up that plant, to put the uranium in the steel tube, in the cement, in the bigger cement, in the box, in the mountains. You need people to do that. You need people to build those things, and you need them when it closes, and all places that house nuclear waste close eventually. It's a political maneuver, or it's not. Then what happens is people need to take it apart. People need to take those blocks of cement, expose themselves to nuclear waste, and move it somewhere else. That's the issue, not once it's there. So we can build a safe to put everything in. The issue is moving stuff into the safe. And now people are saying, talking about San Onofre insulting Southern California Edison. Your power's gonna be out, kid. Your power's gonna... Corruption is funny. Corruption is funny. So I want to talk a little bit about why San Onofre closed. And I have some insider information. Are you ready for this? You can't manipulate Edison's stock price with this info, all right? Because you go to jail. So what happens is San Onofre was closed because the motors that help the turbines turn, right, that gather the electricity, were not working properly because something went wrong with a Mitsubishi motor or something like that. And so due to a safety concern, Edison immediately just went, we're closing it. And it was tough for them to do. You want to know why? Because over 4,000 people worked there, something like that. I don't know the exact number, I apologize, but a lot of people worked there, and it was tough for Edison to just take that bump, okay? It was. And so, people are talking, right, there was also some talk of the past. The past is the past, blah, blah, blah. It's a totally different year, 2014. The Japanese are geniuses, okay? They really are. They're really smart. And if they have to deal with a nuclear power plant meltdown because, well, we talk about seawater, right? It's not fresh water, it's seawater going into the plants. You have to put the plant by the seawater, otherwise you can't use the seawater. So in the event of a natural disaster, God forbid, happen, then guess what? The nuclear power plant closes down. Remember who we are as Americans. We move forward. God bless you all. God bless these United States.
Now, the con side has been trying to use a lot of fear mongering, talking about what we don't know, talking about what possible dangers. But here's the thing: nuclear power saves lives. It may sound ridiculous, but a study conducted by scientists from NASA found that since the 1980s, nuclear power has saved 1.8 million lives compared to the use of, say, coal and oil, and has saved 64 gigatons of pollution from being released into the atmosphere. Now, and in another case, in the 70s and 80s, when France implemented its most serious round of nuclear power, it reduced emissions by 2%. That may not seem like a lot, but that is one of the greatest decreases in all of Western civilization from the start. And so basically, while nuclear power may have some dangers, it is the only power source that can actually supplement, that can actually reduce our use of standard oil and coal power plants, and it is the only, and it does it so in a safe manner, far safer than the means we currently have. And while hydroelectric and solar and wind power all seem like all are options that we can use, and we should implement those as well, it's not an either-or choice. Those power sources aren't nearly productive enough, but they are safer. But to really get rid of our use of oil and coal, we must use nuclear power. And you know, a lot of people on the con side have been saying how we don't know what to do with nuclear power at this point, and that we must get better at using it. But how will we get better at using nuclear power if we do not use nuclear power now? To secure the future of our nation, to secure the future of our world as a whole, we must begin our research and our development of safer nuclear power now. And we must develop safer ways of storing it. We must develop safer ways of running the plants. But we cannot do that unless we take the plunge now. The future, it may be dangerous, but it is not nearly as dangerous as letting our world fall to the wayside using coal and oil production. And that's why I urge you deeply to vote for this resolution. Thank you.
So again, the resolution reads, resolved that the use of nuclear power should be more widespread in California. So we're going to take a vote and just raise your hand. So those of you in favor of the resolution, please raise your hand. Make sure you raise it up high. All those opposed, please raise your hands. Have the chapter lines that's very amazing. Why? I made sure I already took a sentence. Got an email. Next weekend. Okay, I'm thinking of 30% of my grade class. So, 46 in favor, 58 opposes, and 7 abstentions. Can I have everyone who spoke today come up here and say your name, your school, and then I'll pass out the next speaker.
All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Adam Jacobs. I go to TBT High School. I don't think you need to put the school, but Adam Jacobs.
Hi, I'm David Guzman, also from TBT High School. You definitely don't need to put the school. I spoke for pro. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm Casey McDaniel. I go to Canyon High School, and I spoke on the con.
Yeah.
Daniel Ginsberg, and I go to Corona Del Mar High School, and I spoke for pro.
What's your name?
Raj. R-A-J.
R-A-J. Raj. JJ. Nice to meet you.
Andrew. That's pretty good. I don't know, we just dictated. And you know that guy that I picked up?
The guy that we picked up?
Yeah. I just association always just
Right here, right now. So I'm just going to talk to
Has told us to stay here.
It's like a live feed.
This was a good
next time, most of the things I said, I didn't speak to that, very clear, slowly through
They covered all the bases. Like when when the con came up, when the con speaker came back up, he didn't really have anything to say. In 24,000 years, we're just dead. We're like, we don't care. We're gonna be dead.
It's like, well, you couldn't make that serious. Yeah, you could. It's like, that's not great, right?
I was about to ask, I was hoping to take questions. So how many cases have people died and got sick? It's really interesting because like the workers stuff they don't because it's so they don't get hurt or sick or anything. Yeah, because they're like gross.
Hey, I should know this off.
We get this
That's an extra 10 points.
Maybe, so like I kind of have this competition more a bigger finish. Yeah, a lot of really good points going. But that was my problem too. I didn't really we get so into your facts that you don't really think about anything. Right? If you have like your one quote to kind of fall back on, nuclear energy is clean, efficient.
No, pick up.
Yeah.
We'll just slide it.
Like I'd say. I would have found it earlier. It was
Okay, can you bring that thing, Majigger?
Terraform Mars will
Can you hear me? Hi, everybody. Our keynote speaker's here. We're going to start in about 10 minutes. I'm Rachel Kaganoster, and I'm the Vice President of the Junior Statesman Foundation. Can I ask a favor? We have way too many kids for this room, but thankfully we have good air conditioning, which we did this morning. So if I could have some volunteers who are willing, we're going to sit in Indian style on our bottoms, rows up here too, once all the seats are taken. So if you're willing to sit on the ground, because we can't block the access in the back, or take a chair really fast, like in stuck-up boots, and make the late people sit on the ground.
This computer was not designed for an 8-hour live stream.
Down, that would be great.
Wait, did Mayhard tell you about that?
No, I just listened to it. I'm like, oh my god, it fits.
Yeah, I know. I told Mayhard and Ram Mega, and they're like, holy shit.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Maybe it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
I'm gonna stand right there with my hand up.
Come on in and take a seat, please.
Yes.
Everybody take a seat, please. Please take every available seat. Not all to yourself, one. Please take a seat, there are still seats left. Everybody come in and take a seat.
I'm gonna wait until there's no seats.
Okay, can I have everybody's attention again?
Quiet now!
All right, can I have your attention, please? Attention, please. Hi, guys. If you don't have a chair, if there are no chairs left, I see a couple of them. What I need you to do, because we can't block the exit, is I need you to come up here, and I need you to sit in rows there and there, so we don't block the fire exit to the building. I'm talking to you guys in the back. If you can't find a seat, if there isn't a seat left, then I need you to come up and sit in rows on the floor. Sorry about that. We're just way too popular here in the NCR. On the other side as well. But we can't block the exit. Yeah, so sit in rows. You can sit up against the wall. And can I have everybody's attention again? I really need you out of the back and out of the aisles. I'm talking to you in the aisles. I have one student on crutches who needs a chair. Is there a single chair left or someone on an aisle? Take your chair. Where is the student who needs the chair? He's got a seat. Okay, great. So if you're in the back, you can't stand there. So I need you to come and sit along the side here, or the fire marshal's gonna come and get really mad at us. Okay, can I have your attention? So we should have our keynote speaker here in just a second. I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Rachel Kaganoff-Stern. I am the Vice President of the Junior Statesman Foundation and the acting Southern California Program Director because the fabulous Tracy Poindexter Thomas is on maternity leave. Those of you who know her. And there's our keynote speaker. Say one or two, going in and out, right? We planned that for right when you got here. So I'm Rachel Kaganoff-Stern. I was in junior state a million years ago in Goleta. Do you know where Goleta is? Just north of Santa Barbara. I went to Dos Pueblos High School. I was chapter president. I went to the UC Davis Summer School, which is now at Stanford Summer School. And I went to the first year, there's gonna be a test, and there's a whole bunch of you who aren't listening. I went to the first year of Washington DC Summer School, the first time we ever had that, and was a part of the beginning of the expansion of JSA out of California. Could you guys listen? Thanks. Out of California. I'm hoping you're gonna show the keynote speaker respect to her, so we'll practice with me. So I was part of the beginning of the expansion of junior state out of the state of California we're in 33 states now. And so I went to summer school at Davis and summer school at Catholic University, which has now moved to Georgetown University. And I worked as a residential advisor for the Washington DC summer school programs. I worked at UC Davis for JSA and at Stanford. And I have been a supporter of the organization for a long time. But what I want to tell you is, when I was in junior state, my parents are both teachers, and we didn't have enough money for me to go to both of those summer school programs, and I went to both of them on full scholarship. And those summer programs were really transformative for me. I'm pretty convinced I wouldn't have ended up at Princeton University, which is where I went, if I hadn't been involved in JSA. And in particular, if I hadn't had the opportunity to go to JSA summer school. So I've spent a lot of time since then working really hard to raise money for scholarships so that kids like me would have the opportunity to go to the school year conferences and summer